Hey, how you doing today? Welcome to the table. I've got a question for you. If you could be any animal in the world, what would it be and why? Pause this video and talk to the people around you. Take a moment to answer those questions, then come back to the video. Hey, if I could be any animal in the world, I would be a tiger or a lion. A lion, because lions are big and powerful. Lions are the king of the jungle. Lions can defend themselves. Lions can provide for themselves. Lions protect the people around them. And it's similar with a tiger. They lurk in the shadows and they're big and ferocious. And so that's the kind of animal I would be. But what would you be? Right? And we often we think about these animals that have these specific, powerful traits. But the Bible tells us that we are animals. We're like animals, but we're like a typical animal that maybe you and I probably don't think about. The Bible tells us that we are like sheep. Is that the kind of animal you would think of? Yeah, I want to be a sheep. No, I don't want to be a sheep. Do you want to be a sheep? No, but that's what the Bible tells us, that we are like a sheep. In today's reading, Jesus says that there's a connection between the shepherd and the sheep. And he talks about this connection. It's a deep connection. It's not just a surface level thing. It's a deep connection that the shepherd knows each sheep, that the shepherd calls each sheep by name, and that the shepherd knows each of the sheep personally. Think about that for a moment. He knows the sheep personally. It's not just, hey, there's somebody over there. No, he knows everything about that individual sheep. He knows everything. He knows about your strengths and your weaknesses. He knows that if you're older, maybe you're a little bit slow and you don't get around as well. Maybe you have some aches and pains. The shepherd understands that. He also understands that if you're young and you're full of energy and enthusiasm, and so you want to go and explore and wander, and he knows that that is your tendency to do those kind of things too. And so the shepherd gets you. He understands you. It's not just like, oh, you're some general person. The shepherd knows you and all about you and what makes you tick. He knows when you need rest. He knows when you need to be challenged, when you need to be encouraged. He knows when you need to be loved. He knows everything about you. He also knows when you're scared, when you're worried, and when you're stressed. This shepherd knows everything there is to know about you and me and those that are his. The shepherd knows. And Jesus calls his sheep by name. He doesn't say, yep, there's a sheep. He calls his sheep by name. And here's the thing that I want you to grab a hold of, that even though people go to church and they say I'm a Christian, or I live in a Christian nation, or I serve in the church this way, or I tithe, or whatever, lots of times we think that we're Christians because we do those things. And I'm not here to say those things are bad. But Jesus says that there's lots of people that do those things, but they're not my sheep. Think about that. He says there's lots of people that do those things, but they're not my sheep. So what makes a person a Christian or a church member, and what makes a person an actual sheep of Jesus, or a member of the family of Jesus? There's a difference, right? What is that? And here's the thing, that Jesus brings those who are his with him. John chapter 6 verse 37 says this, that everyone the Father gives me will come to me. Everyone that the Father gives me will come to me. Jesus calls those who are his. And here's the point. Please catch this. They don't become sheep because they follow him. They follow him because they are his sheep. They don't become sheep because they follow him. They follow him because they are his sheep. There's a huge difference in going to church and then actually being a follower of Jesus. They don't become sheep because they follow him. They follow him because they are his sheep. Please get a hold of that. That's so important to grab our mind around and think about what is the difference between those two things. They follow him because they're his sheep. God sent Jesus to make all things right between us and God. God sent the Lamb of God to make all things right between us and God. Right? So Jesus comes to earth, and from the very moment that he comes to earth, from the time that he was born, all his people begin to respond. We see that in the book of the Bible, that all these people begin to respond when Jesus arrives on the scene. Why? Because his sheep follow him, and his sheep respond to him. Those who belong to Jesus, they hear him And they don't just hear, but they follow him and they do what the shepherd calls them to do. All the credit and all the honor and the glory doesn't go to you and me in this world, but it goes to the shepherd. It goes to the one who lays his life down for us. It goes to the one who protects us, the one who fights off the evil one for us, the shepherd. And so we're just his sheep. Now that's probably not the image that you thought about when I asked you about that animal. What was that animal? It's probably big, powerful in some way, majestic, but sheep, man, sheep, what? They're nothing really, if you think about it. I asked you that at the beginning. What kind of animal do you want to be and why? And I would almost guarantee that you probably didn't pick a sheep. And I would probably tell you that the animal that you picked was probably more glorious than the sheep. But the Bible tells us that we are just like sheep. Because, well, to be honest, we're not the smartest. We're kind of dull. Useless. We have a tendency to follow other sheep, especially wherever they go, we just follow them. Even if they're going to go over a cliff, we follow them anyway. As sheep, we oftentimes listen to other voices and pay attention to those voices instead of the shepherd who calls us by name. The Bible tells us that we are sheep, so that even on our best day, we need a shepherd. And so we try to live life on our own terms. We try to do things our own way. We even have ideas of what it looks like to be a Christian. But the Bible is very clear that those who are called, they hear, but they also follow. And so I really want you to take a moment just to think about your faith. Where are you in this season right now? Or what voices are you listening to? And do you know the voice of the shepherd? What's keeping you from following him? Have you bought into this idea that I'm a Christian because I'm part of this church and I do these things? Or have you bought into the idea that I am a Christian because I've heard Jesus and his voice and I know him? And whatever he says, I do. And wherever he goes, I go. There's a big difference between being a church member and a follower of Jesus. Which one are you?